One is the Louvre, where I went in and I took a look at the Louvre, the in-between spaces in the Louvre. And these paintings here are a home that was converted to an art gallery in Savannah, Georgia. So it has a really rich history and a lot of beautiful things in the space. And what I did, my projects involved going into a space when, in this case, in this gallery, when the show came down and the paintings were all gone and there was empty space, before the new show went up, I would go in and I would spend time in the space. And I would spend all day there. And I started out by painting in there, and then I realized I was paying attention to the painting and not what was really going on in the space. Because the space between two events is really about creativity for me. So really just absorbing that and finding interesting things there. So over the course of a year for this group of work, I went into the gallery over many seasons whenever the show would come down, and I made work about that, these paintings. What I'm trying to achieve in my work is really a sense of the relationship between the inside and the outside. And if you look through some of the paintings, you'll see that in different ways, the outside is treated in one way and the inside is treated in another way. And I'm trying to create, as I have quite an experience, I experience these spaces, is to create experience for the viewer and kind of communicate some of that. My palette is really simple. My whole idea is about economy of means. Because I've said, you know, nothing's happening there, something really interesting and creative's happening there. I'm doing the same with my palette. I use 3 colors, and everything you see here has been painted with the same 3 colors, but they look different. So I set these challenges up for myself and use that economy of means. My new project is really expanding on what I've done in the Louvre, and I'm going to be looking at art spaces. What I've talked about so far is these 2 projects are art spaces. One was a gallery and one is the Louvre Museum, and I'm looking at some of the major galleries or some of the major museums in New York, and really looking at, with all the big blockbuster events, what could happen in those spaces between 2 paintings. And so that's what I'm starting to explore. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I'm spoiled in a visual sense because I grew up in an art family. My dad was a museum director at Chicago Art Institute. My mother was a poet and author who wrote kind of pulp fiction to get by. So in that environment, we had a chance to spend a lot of time with artists. And Georgia O'Keeffe was a protege of my father's. He gave her first museum show. And when we were rugrats, about this big, taller, younger, we used to follow Georgia across the desert. And she would have 2 rules. The first rule is, don't talk all day. So for 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds, you know, we learned that rule eventually. But the second rule was, you can only talk when you get back and tell me what you've seen. So what we saw was the effect of nature on these mountains, on the beautiful rocks. And what she made us do is kind of appreciate what we'd seen. Now, I also, I call those unintended sculptures. Those are sculptures that kind of rise up because nature, you know, weather has formed things and reformed them. So when I walked along, you know, the Hudson and different places around the country or Savannah, I looked for kind of these unintended sculptures. And the difference between what she was talking about and what I'm painting is these are things made by man, but changed by nature. So by wind and water. So I'm really looking at the intersection of us as humans and nature on the other side, coming together. And also kind of the intersection of things that are in the water and along the shores. It's that intersection of water and land. So that's what I paint. And in the future, as I go forward, I've got a couple of trips. I like to float the Mississippi and paint along there. We talked about a canoe, but I think we'll get something a little bigger. I've been on a canoe trip, not too much bigger. So that's really my interest, is this intersection of man and nature. Thanks.
Thank you.